Okay. Could you please give me your full name as it is listed on your birth certificate?
Stefanie Renee Alleyne.
Okay. What's your birth date, ma'am?
December 16th, 1969.
Okay. And where were you born at?
Hopkinsville, Kentucky.
Okay. And what branch of service were you in?
Army.
Okay. And when did you enter the service?
I entered the service in November of 98.
And when did you leave?
November of 2004.
All right. Were you involved in any wartime or conflict activity?
Yes, I was.
Okay. Were you sent Iraq?
I was in Iraq from 2003 to 2004.
Okay. Is there a battalion or unit that you'd like to list that you were a part of?
I was part of 261st ASMB out of Fort Bragg, North Carolina.
Okay. And what was your highest rank?
I was a specialist.
All right.
So I'll start the interview off, okay? So you're a Kentucky girl.
Yes, I am.
You like the Wildcats?
Sure do.
Well, I lived in Kentucky too for a
Mhm.
while, and it's a great state.
Yeah.
So what time were you born in?
Hopkinsville.
And raised
Yeah.
there too?
Until I was about 9.
And then what?
And then we moved to West Virginia.
Oh, okay. And what town did you move to in West Virginia?
Yeah, right here in Beckley.
Right here in Beckley.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Was it work that your parents were following that brought you here? Or?
Yes.
And what did your parents or your dad or mom do?
My dad actually works here at the hospital also.
Huh?
And my mom is a teacher.
Wonderful. So tell us a little bit about your time growing up here in West Virginia. Was it an adjustment from Kentucky to West Virginia, or not so much?
Not really, it's about the same.
Yeah, they are about the same.
Yeah.
So how was school for you growing up?
School was good.
Where did you go to school?
I went to Woodrow Wilson.
Mhm. And did you do extracurricular activities there?
Yes, I did. I was on the track team.
Uh-huh.
I was state champion all 3 years in high school, undefeated in the 200 meter dash.
Wow,
Mhm.
that's impressive.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I just got inducted last fall to the first class of Woodrow Wilson honoring the track teams. Yeah.
Awesome. That's incredible. Great. So, was your father in the military?
My father, my mother, myself, and my son.
Wow. So you've got a family story to tell.
Yes, I do.
So tell us a little bit about your mom and your dad. How they've influenced you and what led you to go into the service yourself.
Well, my mom at the time was a single mom, and she joined the service probably around, she was like about 25, and I really liked the lifestyle, and she's taught me a lot. She's taught me a lot. But when I got into the military, I was like, this is gonna be hard. But the only thing that really got me through it was if my mom can do it, I can do it, because she's a girly girl.
All right, describe a girly girl to us.
She likes dresses, and I like dresses too. But she's just not the kind of person you'd think would go into the military.
And so she went into the service
Mm-hmm.
as a single mom?
Yes.
And how old were you when that happened?
I think it was 9.
Oh,
Mhm.
okay. So when she went in, what happened? Did you guys move somewhere?
No, actually, I stayed with my grandparents in Kentucky.
Okay.
Hmm. And she did her basic training, and then she was stationed in Germany. And her last year in the military, 'cause she did 4 years, her last year in the military is when we moved to Fort Campbell. She came back from Germany and we moved to Fort Campbell.
So for a while, your mother was away from you.
Mhm.
For how long? About
2.5 years.
2.5 years.
Mhm.
What was that like?
We did a lot of writing. A lot of writing. I mean, even now I can remember that little funny stationery. But
Tell us about the station.
the stationery was, back then it was just like paper. It was like cardboard kind of,
Uh-huh.
and you fold it into threes.
Oh, yes.
And it had a little sticker on it.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
It was kind of like patchwork.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Are those letters still in existence?
You know, I don't know. Probably not.
So you wrote back and forth quite a bit.
Did a lot of writing.
And obviously you're very close to your grandmother, who
Mhm.
was your mother for
Yeah.
some years there. Okay, so when your mom came home, you were reunited.
Mm-hmm.
Did that happen in Kentucky?
Yes, it did.
And what happened? Did you have a party or was it a big thing?
I don't even really remember.
You're only 9, right?
I don't remember.
Okay, I just thought maybe you might remember. So let's pick up the story. So you're 9 years old and your mom's come home. Now what happens?
Well, I was 9 when she went.
Oh, okay.
Wait a minute. We've done so much. When she went in, I was probably about 6.
Okay.
When she came out, I was probably about 10.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, about 10, because we moved here when I was 12.
Okay.
So I started first, 6th grade here.
Okay. So when you graduated from Woodrow Wilson, what did you do then?
I went to college for a year. I went to college on a track scholarship.
Where did you go?
I went to St. Augustine's College in Raleigh, North Carolina.
Okay. Now, is your dad in the picture already at this point? Your mom, has she got married then?
Mm-hmm. That's my father. That's upstairs. Works on the 4th floor here.
Oh, okay. Great. And when did that happen?
Probably 1980 when they got married.
a long
They
time.
met in Germany.
Oh, they did?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So you went off to college,
Mm-hmm.
and how'd that go?
I was there for a year and a half.
Mm-hmm.
A year and a half, and I ended up having my son, my oldest, who's also in the military, and I moved back here and worked and things like that.
Were you a single mother then too?
Mm-hmm. I was a single mom.
Okay. What's your son's name?
Marcus.
Okay. So what happened next?
His father and I stayed in very close contact, and we eventually got married,
Mm-hmm.
and we have 3 kids total together.
Oh, what were the other two's names?
Micah and Macon. I like M names.
Uh-huh. Great. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So, at what point did you decide to opt for a military career yourself?
Well, talking with my dad when I was a senior at Woodrow, I decided, we sat down and we were talking, do you want to go to college? Do you want to go in the military? So that was like something that you did anyway, just go ahead and do the ASVAB test. And so I did. I scored really well.
Mm-hmm.
But I got a scholarship for track, so I opted to go to school.
Okay.
And then at the ripe old age of 28 is when I decided, I want to do it. I'm going to do this.
What came into your mind at that time to lead you in that direction? I mean, what changed? Or where were you at in your life at that point?
Kind of at a crossroads, not really. I wasn't working. I'd been on my own since I was 19. Just wanting to do something, just wanting to try something different.
Mm-hmm. So obviously both your parents were supportive of that?
Mm-hmm. They were.
Being military people, so you
Mm-hmm.
had that great support going on.
Yeah.
And so you enlisted here in Beckley?
I sure did.
And now your son, what happened to him when you enlisted? You went off, Marcus?
Mm-hmm.
Stayed?
I went off to the military, to basic training, and he stayed with my parents because my husband was an over-the-road truck driver. So it was hard for him, we didn't want to take him out of school or anything.
Sure.
So he stayed with them.
Okay. And what was basic like for you? Where did you go?
Oh, Fort Leonard Wood. Fort Lost in the Woods.
Where is that?
It's in Missouri.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's
So
about 2 hours
So
from
tell us,
St. Louis.
what was it like for you?
It was horrible.
Okay, well, tell us how horrible it was.
When I got off the bus, I realized, I said, this was a big mistake because I went in at 28. Most of the people that I enlisted with were young.
Mhm.
You know, so like straight out of high school or straight out of college, and here I am 28, and I'm like, this is a mistake. This is a mistake, because I had this huge bag. My recruiter told me I needed this stuff, that stuff, and I had this huge bag, and I had to carry that bag about a mile. It was full.
Now, were there other women or men your age that were?
Yeah, there were quite a few.
Quite a few.
Yeah,
But still,
quite a
you
few.
had that feeling,
Yeah,
like a little bit of fish out of the water.
yeah.
Okay.
After we got issued all our gear, we rode in what they call a cattle truck, and it takes you from TA-50 to your actual barracks where you're going to be in basic training. And I stepped off the bus, and the drill sergeant goes, "How old are you?" And I said, 28. And she said, "Oh, you're going to be the mama." So, I was like, I don't want to take care of anybody. I want to get through this by myself.
So tell us about basic. How hard was it for you?
It was really hard. There were times where I was like, I don't think I'm gonna make it. I'm not gonna be able to do this. It was really hard, especially to get back into shape. That running like to have killed me.
You of all people.
Yeah, that's what they said. I can't believe you can't run. I said, well, I did sprints. I didn't do long distance.
So, but you did make it through.
I did. That last few days, what really showed me that I could actually, accomplish this. It was one of the hardest things that, I've ever had to do.
What happened in those last few days?
Those last few days, everything's compacted into like 3 days, and it's called a FTX, which stands for field training exercise. So you go to the live rounds. You have to do all your what is that called? All your first aid, all your buddy aid stuff, and then you have a 12.6 mile ruck march back to where we went out and played in the dirt. So that was really hard, and it was just hard. I've never had to work that hard those last few days. It was really hard.
In that 3-day period, though, were you already, like, in your mind determined to do it? And
Yeah, I was determined.
Did you know you would make it then?
I really did. Not that 12-mile ruck march. I didn't think I was going to make, because you're wearing about 50 pounds of extra, like, gear and a weapon.
Mm-hmm.
And a rucksack on your back, and it's hard, and you have to stay, you can't like break formation or anything, so it's really hard.
Now, since both your parents were in the military,
Mm-hmm.
had you shotguns and
No.
So that was all
Nope.
new to you too.
That was the first time I ever shot a weapon.
What did you think the first time you shot a weapon?
It was actually exciting. It's actually exciting.
Yeah, and did you turn out to be a pretty good shooter?
I was pretty good.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. I didn't make sharpshooter. My mom was she made sharpshooter.
So you passed and got out, and obviously everybody was, proud of you.
Mhm.
You were proud of yourself.
Yeah.
And so
I
what
was.
happened next?
Then I got assigned to, I went to AIT, which was I went to a tri-service, which was at Shepherd Air Force Base.
What is a tri-service?
Tri-service means that there's Army, Air Force, and Navy in one classroom. So you're split into 10 from each service.
Mm-hmm.
But when I graduated, there were 37 of us that graduated for that MOS, which was I was a 91 Echo, which was a dental assistant. And so I had to wait like 6 weeks before I could even start classes. So it's what you call like a hold under, because you haven't got there yet, as opposed to people have already done, and they can't, for certain reasons, people can't pass their PT test or anything like that, so they're called a hold over. But AIT was good. It was good.
What did you like about it?
Meeting all the different people, because when you're in basic, you really don't have time to talk to anybody and learn, where people are from and what they like to do. So when you get to AIT, it's a little bit more relaxed.
Mm-hmm.
You actually get to, relax and have fun.
Make some friends?
Yeah, make some friends. Yeah.
You were provided with some downtime at that point too, right?
Yeah.
I was kind of curious about your basic training. Did you witness anything? Would you say was it easier for the males compared to the females, or I mean, did you witness anything like that, or did you see other females having more trouble than the males, or was it pretty much, not gender specific as to who would struggle the most with the basic training?
I don't think it was gender specific.
Okay.
I don't think so.
Okay.
Because we all get pretty much treated the same, as opposed to when my mom and dad went in, it was pretty much men's army, women's army. The women didn't see the men. Women just trained by themselves, as opposed to when I went in, everybody, you're just a soldier. It doesn't matter, if you're male or female. We were even in the same building. They had the first 2 floors, and we had the bottom floor.
So your parents grew up they were in the military in a different world and a different time.
Yeah.
They really were. So were they interested in hearing your stories of sort of the co-ed army?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What do they make of it all?
Yeah, we talk about it quite often, different things that have happened. And they were just, when I told my mom that, we did everything together, she was like, "You did?" I said, "Yeah, we did everything together." "So you all went everywhere together?" And I said, "We did everything. Everything. Shooting, hand grenades, everything. Ruck march, PT test, everything. Eat, sleep." I mean, but we were in the same building. They weren't even allowed to be in the same building. So it's changed quite a bit.
But no real problems, right?
No.
Okay. So, tell me again now, where are you?
I'm at Shepherd Air Force Base.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. It was really good to be with the other services to see how they are. When you just have one AIT and it's just, everybody's there. Everybody that's there is Army. It's kind of like, okay, well, what's the difference? You don't learn that difference. But
So what's the purpose of bringing the 3 together?
for cohesion, just cohesion. It's not a huge MOS, so it's easier to put those members together. I'm not sure they do it now. I haven't talked to anybody who's actually gone through 91 Echo School, but it hadn't been in place that long. Before I came in, maybe 2 or 3 years before I went to AIT, before I joined, everybody went to Fort Sam. All medical stuff was at Fort Sam.
So when you went in the military, did you kind of know where you wanted to land, or did you have like a request or a plan or a hope to learn a certain thing, or?
Yeah, I scored well when I did it the second time, and basically the recruiter was like, "You can do whatever you want in the medical field if that's what you're looking at." So that's what I had 3. I had 3 choices. One was a medic, the second one was a dental assistant, and the third was radiology.
And you chose dental assistant?
Yeah.
Okay. Can you tell us why?
That's what my mom did when she was in the military.
Okay.
So I was like, hey, I'll do it too.
Okay, makes sense. So after you finished that schooling, right? Then what happened?
I got assigned to Fort Bragg, North Carolina.
Okay.
That was eye-opening.
Okay, what opened our eyes?
Fort Bragg is I haven't been on a lot of other military installations, but Fort Bragg is a whole different animal. It's like they're in their own world.
And what is their own world like?
It's at times can be very intimidating. When I talk to veterans around here, and when they come in for their appointments, and they say, "Well, where were you stationed?" I said, "Fort Bragg." "Oh no, Fort Bragg."
And when they say that, they mean what? Strict?
Strict. You know what I mean? Because it's the home of the 82nd, it's home of the airborne. And that's like one of the higher echelons, you know? It's just, it's actually pretty good if you say, hey, I was stationed at Fort Bragg. They're like, oh, wow.
So what did you do while you were there?
I did pretty much everything but my MOS.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah, because I was attached to a field unit. When you're attached to a field unit, you don't really get to do your job unless you get attached to the clinic, and everybody has rotations. When you're in a field unit, there's only one dental assistant, one dentist. So the dentist works in the dental clinic, of course.
Right.
But we didn't have a dentist with the 261st. We didn't actually have our own dentist. So the only time we would see a dentist is when we did field training exercises. So then they would come out and we'd actually get to pretend to do our job. But the first time I ever actually got to do real dental was while I was pregnant with my daughter, Micah.
Mm-hmm.
And so I couldn't be, because most of the time we worked at the motor pool. So I did a lot of stuff with vehicles, a lot of stuff with the 91 Bravos, which are the medics, because I was attached. It was all medical. So I kind of crossed over. I did a lot of, medic stuff too.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So you said you were pregnant.
Mm-hmm. I was pregnant with my daughter, and I got assigned to the dental clinic. So that's when I really learned a lot of actually what my job was.
Can you describe some of the duties you were responsible for then?
As being a dental assistant, basically what we did was just like when you go to the civilian dentist, the dental assistant sits there and helps with the procedures, passes instruments, does a lot of suctioning, all that nasty stuff. But it was, I liked it. I liked my job when I got to do it.
So, what's it like to be pregnant and be in the military? That's kind of unusual, isn't it?
No, not really.
Okay.
No,
Clue
because
me
we
in.
even had pregnancy PT. So when you did your physical training, everybody there was pregnant. So we had nutrition classes. We actually did, PT. Depending on how far along you were in your pregnancy, we'd break up into groups. But it was different. You get little pregnancy BDUs, and so you're just wearing camouflage.
Uh-huh. So what happens when you approach delivery date?
I actually had to be put on bed rest right before I had my daughter. She was actually 7.5 weeks early.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So. But normally, the closer you get, they put you off work, and it's usually like 2-3 weeks. Some people work up until due date. You come back to work on Monday, and they're like, "Oh, so and so had her baby." So it just depends on what you're physically able to do.
Sure. I feel like there's something more I ought to be asking you. So your daughter was born where?
At Womack Army Hospital in Fort Bragg.
In Fort Bragg.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And your husband was not there with you.
Yes, he was.
Oh, he came down.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of yelled
Oh
at
yeah,
him.
I moved my son and my husband in '98.
So the whole family was together.
Mm-hmm.
So that was great. So when so in '98 you're there with your family and you got a new daughter.
Mm-hmm.
And that's great. And now you're only getting to work as a dental assistant part-time at that point, or?
Just whenever we went to the field, or we did after I had my daughter, we went to NTC, which is the National Training Center in the Mojave Desert, which is really good training because it gets you trained for Iraq basically, because it's all desert and it's really good training out there. So I was gone for a month, and
Did you
actually got to do my job.
Did you have any sense at that point that we might, or was there a general sense in the service that we might end up in Iraq? Yes?
No,
Nobody had any
not at
idea
all.
about that? Okay.
Not at all.
So that was the last thing on your mind.
That was the last thing on mine. I was very surprised.
You were very surprised when.
When everything happened with 9/11.
Okay, so tell us about that. Were you at Fort Bragg when 9/11
I was
happened?
at Fort Bragg.
What was it like?
When you hear interviews about people, that were actually there at 9/11 and they talk about it being surreal, it really is surreal. Even though we weren't there, it's, you hear people chattering because it was like it was right before we went to go to work.
Uh-huh.
So it was after PT, and you heard people saying, I can't call so-and-so, I can't call anybody, and no calls were coming in. That was like basically when cell phones got kind of popular. So we ended up, somebody had said that planes, flew into the World Trade Center. We're like, yeah, right. So they called us all into what we call, it's like a meeting place. And it has a TV in there and everything. So our commander sat us down and told us that it really was true, and we're pretty much going to be on alert because we don't know what's going to happen. So it was just sitting around like that first day on 9/11. It was like, what do we do? So it was.
What were you feeling?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't have any family that lives in New York, but it's still, even if you don't have any contact with anybody there, it's still really sad. So, to this day, I don't know anybody, but every time, somebody talks about 9/11, it's like you're right there again.
Was there a feeling at Fort Bragg? Obviously we were all angry and sad, and the whole country felt that in unison.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering at Fort Bragg, obviously it was stepped up security. You guys, were a couple heartbeats closer in real sense to a military violation of this country.
Yeah.
So, was there a feeling amongst the troops that were gathered there about what had happened? Were people angry? Did they want to retaliate?
People were angry, of course. They were angry. There was a lot of sadness. It's just a whole gamut of emotions.
Sure.
That went on with people, because there were people that I was, with that had family in New York and had no idea if people were okay and things like that. But
Sure.
Fort Bragg was until 9/11 was an open base. You could drive right through the middle of it. And on either side of the main highway was Fort Bragg. One side was COSCOM, the other side was 82nd. The next day we went in to go to work because we carpooled. So quite a few of us that lived in the same apartment complex outpost. We never did make it to work because it was so congested with everybody, because we had gates. Those gates weren't in place. They weren't used. There was nobody manning those gates. But, the next day, they had dogs, they had the mirrors looking up under cars, you had to physically get out, you had to show your ID. You didn't have to do any of that. So that was almost, forbidden. You didn't do that. We didn't have gates. We were probably only military installation that didn't have gates.
Did the extra security, did it subside any?
It did. Fort Bragg is a really, really big installation. So I tried to count them up actually the other week, and I think I came up with like 12 gates. So that's a lot of people, because you have to have, 4 on one end coming in, 4 on the other side going out. So, gosh, I can't even imagine how many people. And of course, you have to have shift changes. So it was wild for a first week or so.
Tell us about Iraq.
Oh, Iraq. I wasn't even when 9/11 happened, actually, people that were in my company, there were like 10 of them that went. And when they first went to Afghanistan, they went to Afghanistan, and it was very hush hush. We don't know to this day, don't know who they went with, except we know that most of them were Marines. There were no women allowed, and they were gone for a year, not quite a year, almost a year, but it was totally different, I think, than when actual people deployed to Iraq from there, because it was just a small amount of people that went to Afghanistan in the beginning from Bragg. But when I went to Iraq, I wasn't even attached. I went with the 82nd. I'm not airborne. So going with them was really scary because, number one, I wasn't airborne. So, I'm thinking, okay, are they going to make me jump out of a plane? I mean, what's going to happen here? And you don't know those people, and you have to expect that those people are going to have your back if something happens. So that was really scary for me because I had no idea who any of these people were. I met them a week before. Some of them I didn't even meet till I got to Iraq.
So, at some point, you were actually handed orders or told.
Mm-hmm.
How did that?
I had a week.
I mean, were you notified verbally, or did you get?
I got a call from my squad leader, actually, and he really tried to get me out of it because at that time we had 2 dental assistants, and but I had more experience as a field dental assistant than she did. She had more experience, of course, being in civilian because she went from civilian into the military, so she had a lot more experience. But now I look back on it, I wouldn't trade it for anything. It's what made me who I am now.
Well, that's a lot that you said there. So, what did you learn about yourself, and what did you see?
Saw lots of stuff. Lots.
Okay.
I have seen burnt bodies. I've seen trauma to the head. I've seen lots of things. I mean, I don't know how to explain how seeing those things, how that changes a person. And I just, I will never be that person that went there as opposed to the person that came back.
What kind of duties did you perform in Iraq?
I did dental, but of course when I went to Iraq, we flew into Kuwait, and then the mission for the 82nd, we're supposed to be the ones that took over the airport, which is named BIOP for short. And that didn't happen. I'm not sure if it was 101st or who ended up taking over the airport. But our mission was only supposed to be 3 months, and it got extended to 6 months, and then it got extended to a year. But I had already made up in my mind that I wasn't going to be home in 3 months. I mean, it's just not realistic. I didn't think it was. If we got home in 3 months, that'd have been great. But as opposed to.
You kind of prepared yourself for the worst.
You have to. You have to.
Is there any?
No, go ahead.
Is there any way you can describe how you handled the stress of the situation?
I didn't handle it very well for the first few months. I did a lot of crying. I was really depressed. So it was hard for me. It was hard for me to leave my kids.
Did you have communication?
First time I talked to my family, I did talk to them maybe a week or so. I talked to my parents after I got there. And that was when I was in Kuwait. But I didn't actually talk to anybody until May. And we left in January. So I didn't really, maybe, a few calls infrequently in there because we traveled through the desert. We didn't use the roads. So communication was pretty bad. And then at the time we only had a DSN phone, which is, it can take you from post to post, and then they have an operator that dispatches calls on the post if you live on post. But so it was hard. A lot of times you couldn't even get through because there were so many other people trying to get through. It's not a really good way of communicating.
You weren't provided with internet access?
No, we didn't get internet access until maybe September or October. So yeah, it was really, no communication. And we did have a satellite phone. And now that I think about it, it was kind of crazy. We'd have to go up to the top of the building on the roof and make phone calls because that was the best.
So your post was in an existing structure?
Yeah, it was in an existing structure. But on the way, we stayed at lots of hangars, petroleum plants, all kinds of different places in the middle of nowhere.
So you said that you were traveling through the desert.
Mm-hmm. It's what you call a convoy.
Convoy. Now,
Mm-hmm.
This is going to make me probably sound kind of ignorant, but that's okay. But your purpose wasn't to be, really had nothing to do with dentistry, did it?
Yeah, it did. It actually did because there are, just like your dentist office calls you for 6 months, you come in for your cleaning, although we didn't do cleanings, but, because of the conditions, a lot of people that, lost a toothbrush along the way or whatever happened, especially the infantry guys. Things happen. You get cavities, whatever, so they have to come in and see us.
So if somebody got a cavity, there was a
If
dentist
somebody
there?
he did cavities, he did wisdom teeth. It was just like you were here at home. It's just
Only you're in a war.
yeah, only you're in a war. Yeah.
So did you eventually end up in Baghdad?
Mm-hmm. We left 2 days before the war actually started, and we got to Baghdad in April, probably April. So that was March, about a month and a half before we actually made it to Baghdad.
And what did that feel like when you got there? It all had to. Go ahead.
It was really weird. I read my journal because Debbie told me to bring in some memorabilia.
Uh-huh.
So I pulled out some things and I actually read my journal yesterday, and it was really looking back on it. I didn't think about the little details. When I'm telling stories or we're talking about it, I didn't think about the details, and actually reading what I wrote was really. It was kind of neat,
And what did you write?
I wrote a lot of different things, I remember I wrote talking about, we could actually see, I don't know if you've ever seen it on TV, but actually when they are shooting missiles, you can actually see them and they're just like going across the sky. It looks like fireworks. It's actually really pretty, but when you think about what's actually happening, it's not a pretty picture. But if it was just somebody had no idea what it was, they'd think it was fireworks because it really is that pretty. But I remember it was so loud because they call it a gunship because it actually sounds like something futuristic, like something from outer space. But you really can't see it. It's just really, really loud when it goes over. It's kind of it sounds like a tornado, actually. It's really like that deafening sound. And like I said, you could see, the shooting that was going on. But then there were calm, quiet moments, like we would see, camels going across, and you can see hundreds and hundreds of camels. So there were different facets of traveling there. It was amazing that it's cold at night, but super hot in the day. But it would be 60 degrees, and it would feel like it was 20. It would be you'd actually be shivering. So that was kind of hard to get used to. It being so hot, that's the hottest I've ever been in my life. I remember on the 4th of July, they called it mandatory fun, actually. So we had to go out. Somebody had got volleyballs and things like that. So we actually were made to go outside and watch people if you weren't actually wanting to participate in what was going on. And we sat back and we were like, I can't believe we're actually out here in 140-degree weather watching people play volleyball. So it was different, different things that we take for granted that, people don't have there. Because when we got to where we were going to be, there were no windows, there were no doors, no toilets, just things that, we don't think about. And when we first got air conditioning, that was really exciting. We were so happy because it's literally when you went to bed, that's when you really started sweating, and your cot would be soaking wet. So like if one person moved because of that nylon rubbing against that metal frame on your cot, it would wake up everybody in the room. Wasn't a lot of sleeping going on. Not any at all.
So, so how long were you in Baghdad?
6 months.
6 months.
Yeah.
Now, if after the initial, arrival, things got calm for a while, didn't they? Relatively calm?
Off and on. Yeah.
Off and on.
Yeah.
And
We sat so far back from, I think we were behind like 3 or 4 gates. So our structure was pretty safe. We did have one casualty that they said was friendly fire, but I don't know how that would have happened. But I mean, that's one of those things that still, makes me wonder at what actually happened, because he was a young guy. They just had a baby, he and his wife, and he was on his way home.
did you know him?
I didn't really know him. I'd seen him, but I didn't really know him, and it was just, that was our first casualty from the people that I was with. But
So, what was Baghdad like when you left? Was it because things started to really go south for a while, didn't they?
yeah,
But was that already happening by the time you left? Was it getting?
yeah, that was already happening. Yeah.
I'm curious, did you have any interaction with any Iraqis?
Yeah, we did.
How
We
was
had-
that? I mean,
We had translators. We had people that did the trash pickup and stuff like that. The guys that came and cleaned out the porta potties or changed them out. We had one translator that was really, really nice guy. He was really sweet. He actually got shot coming to do his shift, because he was usually there at night, and he got shot because they were mad at him for coming and helping us. So I remember him. You could see him coming, and you could see him, all bloody and everything, because he got shot in the shoulder. He actually had to have an external fixator. It shattered bones in his arm. So he stayed with us. After that, he stayed with us for probably about 3 or 4 weeks, as opposed to him going home every morning. So, we had a lot of interaction with him. He was a nice guy.
Well, he must have been afraid to go home.
Yeah, he was. But he couldn't stay there after after they took the fixator off of his arm. So he had to go home.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's pretty heavy.
Yeah. It's sad. I mean,
So finally, you got. How did you feel about the whole thing? What was it? What I mean, all of a sudden, you're involved in this war. Did you think the war was a good idea? You knew people were opposed to the war, some in the United States. How did you process all that, or did you not even have time to think about it?
I processed it. The first part, like I said, I was depressed. The second, halfway through there, I was angry, that we were still here, because I guess people really thought that it was going to be 93 hours, like, 91. It's not what happened. I mean, we're just now leaving there.
Right.
So, for me, it's 8 years ago, and it's still, it still feels like yesterday. So, I don't know. After seeing seeing things while we convoyed, through. We saw, bunkers full of ammunitions that were never used. There were tanks hanging, sticking out of the water, things like that. So I was angry with the fact that I don't really think we were there for weapons of mass destruction because we never saw any. So,
Did it appear as if the weapons and the structure that built up for war was, the way you're describing it, was kind of set aside?
Yeah.
So what do you think now? Do you have any feeling for what you think might happen in Iraq, or what you hope would happen in Iraq? You saw us expend a lot of money and energy there.
Yeah, I saw a lot of money spent, and once certain places were taken over, we're thinking, okay, so what's our mission? What are we going to be doing here? So it kind of became a little bit humanitarian. We helped build schools. We would get medical supplies and take them out to the hospitals or clinics and things like that. So
were you involved in that?
I did one.
What was that like?
That was different because people were actually coming up to you and they want to talk to you, they want to touch you, and that's kind of scary because you don't know if they're really being sincere or if somebody's going to do something.
Mm-hmm.
You have no idea. That was one of the things that was really hard for me when we first got into Baghdad. And when we first got actually on a hard road, a real road, and we'd be driving through the towns, and you're like, you don't see anybody, and then all of a sudden you see all these people, and you see all these kids, and they're running next to the vehicles and things like that. And we had food and water, but we weren't allowed to give it to them. And we saw, I saw things like, kids or parents offering their children in exchange for food. They can help you, they can, they'll do this for you, they'll do that for you in exchange for food and water. And I just can't imagine, I could never imagine my children actually having to do that. It's...
You said before that you cried and felt depressed. Were there other people were you able to share that with others? Was there a support mechanism there for you?
Mm-hmm. It was a full... Everything that's here in this hospital is pretty much there. So we had a psychiatrist, we had a counselor. If you needed to talk, they were there to talk to you.
And so did you talk to them?
I talked to the counselor. I never actually talked to the psychiatrist. But
and
it's just like being, in civilian world. They have everything. You have to have everything.
So did seeing the counselor help in some way?
It helps somewhat, and then once you get used to, okay, well, I'm going to be living with these people for the next year, so you do become a family. The people that I deployed with, even though I'd never seen them before, I have several friends. 8 years later, we still keep in contact. So, and every day, not every day, but every once in a while, you find somebody new. I do a lot of Facebooking, so that's where I found most of the people, that I was deployed with. So it's those are my best friends. I can truly say that.
Sure. So finally, you got orders to come home.
Yeah.
That was a happy day.
I was happy. I actually got to come home on R&R for 15 days at Thanksgiving.
What year was that?
2003. So that was exciting. But then I had to go back. I had to go back to Iraq.
That just sounds so wrenching.
Yeah.
It's like a hothouse plan.
It is, and I got, before I actually got orders that I could go home for that time, for those 15 days, it was, okay, no, you can't go. Okay, yeah, you can go. They changed their minds like 3 or 4 times, and finally, I said, just forget it. I don't want to, because this is too hard, because you get excited about you going home, and then they tell you, 24 hours later, I'm sorry, you can't go.
What was it like when you got home?
Oh, it was great. It was great. It was just my husband and my children that met me at the airport in Fayetteville. But then I got to come home, And it was great being home. It really was. And it actually gives you a little bit more strength to, we knew we were coming home in February, so it gives a little bit more strength. It's not much more time left. I can do
You
this.
see light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
So were they waiting there with balloons and jumping up and down and all that good stuff?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it was late. It was really late when they came in. So the kids were kind of like, oh, Mom's home. So my daughter was she was just 2.
Oh, yeah.
So, she was almost 3. But,
And it had been how long since you'd seen her then?
10 months.
Oh, it's a long time.
Probably about 9 months.
So she changed a lot.
She had changed a lot. She was talking. She wasn't really talking.
Wow.
Yeah. So she had changed a lot. It was kind of sad because, kids at that age don't have any recollection of time. They don't understand. They don't process that time thing. So I came home for those 15 days, and then when I came home, for good, she was like, "We just took you to the airport," and that was months later. So that it's kind of good that they're resilient at that age.
Yeah.
So you didn't really have any trouble integrating back into civilian life so much, or
I did.
a little bit?
I did. I had a lot of trouble because when I came back and I had to go back, I didn't want to go back to my unit. I wanted to stay with the people I was with, and I couldn't do that. I had to go back to my unit. When I got back to my unit, they were gone. They were in Iraq, so it was kind of hard to come back to. There were a few people that were there.
A few familiar faces.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a few familiar faces, but it's not the same as when you come home and you've gone together and you come back together and you have all this camaraderie. I didn't have that when I came back home. It was just kind of okay, you're back. It wasn't
What about family-wise, though? There was never really, did you have any trouble integrating back into life with your family?
Yeah, it was hard. I had a hard time with my daughter, and we still do, because I feel like she's been deprived so much because I had her in the military. I was away from her, all the time. My husband was actually a stay-at-home dad for 18 months. He took care of her the first 18 months of her life. So, still trying to figure out if I have that bond. That was really hard for me. It was really hard for me to come back and feel like I don't know her. So, I feel like that sometimes.
Even yet to this day?
Yeah. Even to this day, I feel like I don't know. We have a bond, of course, but it's just, it's
miss
not
some
the
time.
same. Yeah. I feel like I'm always making up time. So it's hard.
So, I don't know what to say, except we're touched. So how did you come to be here in Beckley?
It was only supposed to be a couple of weeks, come to visit family, whatever, but it ended up, the closer it came to school, starting, my husband was still there in Fayetteville, North Carolina, working. We had a lot of family things to happen between he and myself, and we lost a lot in that year, and we could never get that back, and we're divorced now. He wasn't the same person, and neither was I.
You didn't get to change together.
No.
So, so when you came back up here to Beckley, what happened?
I stayed with my parents, myself and my 3 children, and finally, It wasn't long before I found work. I started working for the state. I worked with the WIC program, and that was good. It was good to actually be working again, and because when I got out, I didn't work for 3 years, so it was good to be actually working again. And my dad kept saying, you can get on here. Let's try it. So it actually took me like 8 months to get on here at the VA, but I love it.
Now, in the 3 years you weren't working, what was happening? You were just trying to get yourself back together?
Yeah. There's a lot of depression because probably about 2 weeks before I got out of before I ETS is when we found out we were pregnant with our third child. So I think that and not really knowing, having the depression from having a baby, and then just, because I am diagnosed with PTSD. So those two together it was really hard for me. It was really hard.
Did the deployment pretty much set your mind that had you previously thought about staying in the military, but do you think the deployment persuaded you otherwise?
Definitely, because when I got back, I almost went 2 more times, so I couldn't handle it, but if I had to, I would have, but it was more along the lines of my husband. He basically said that he couldn't take care of the kids again by himself. So it was, I ETS'd. I didn't have to, I did the family, because you have to have a family care plan. Even if family care plans are usually for dual military families, and he was civilian, but if you don't have somebody that's going to take care of your estate and things like that, your children, then you have to have a family care plan, somebody that you can fall back on to take care of your assets and things like that. And he basically wasn't going to do that, so I got out on a chapter. But I mean, I did my 6 years. That's what I enlisted for, and that's what I did. So I don't feel bad about getting out on that chapter.
Okay. Is there anything about your job now that you'd like to describe?
I love my job here. I really do. I love working with the veterans every day. Working in mental health is hard. It's hard. I feel like, but they relate to me better because a lot of them know that I have PTSD as well as they do. They see my little badge that says I'm a veteran too, and it's different, I think, than if I was working in a civilian hospital. There's that camaraderie, even though we're from different war eras.
You think it's easier for them to trust you?
Yeah, I definitely do.
So you've been able to take a really pretty bad experience and utilize it to help others.
Yeah, definitely. When we get new guys coming home, I try to do that extra step and make sure that they're okay. And hey, you might want to try this, you might want to try that. It's better. I feel like it's better because they definitely do trust you more.
Sure. And do a lot of new people come?
Every day.
Every day?
Every day.
New people from Afghanistan and Iraq? Or other conflicts?
Yeah.
Sometimes?
Every day. You still have them coming in from Vietnam. It's going to continue. It's always going to be there.
Is there, if somebody comes to you that needs help from Vietnam, is it, do you talk to them differently, or is it a different way that you have to relate to them, or not so much?
It's the same.
It's all the same stuff.
It's all the same.
So you're here now in Beckley with your 3 kids? And you've been here at the hospital how long?
In August it'll be 4 years.
Great. Is there anything that you would like to add to your interview? Anything that we've forgotten to ask you? Anything funny that happened to you crazy stuff that you remember? Good times?
Yeah, definitely. Always good times. We started out with maybe 8 to 10 females, so we were small, little part of 1,000 people on our base. So we got really close.
Mhm.
We got really, really close. We tried to stay in contact after Iraq. There, every once in a while, we'll, drop there. But when we left, there were 5 of us. There were 5 of us that ended up staying the whole time. So we're really close. We're really close. And I mean, we used to have the nurse, which was kind of like, she was kind of like me. She went in the military. She came into the military when she was 41. So she came in. She was one of those people that came in after 9/11. They were like, I've got, there are people, so many people that did that. I want to do, for my country. I think I should give back. And she was one of those people. Her husband was retired military. So she knew, everything about it. And she was a nurse. She was a ER nurse. And we were the same. We were older, and we didn't know anybody. So we kind of had a really good, our friendship is really good.
Where is she now?
She is in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. She actually went back again, and it was so funny because she ended up right back where we were. That's kind of hard to do. But, she's one of the sweetest people I know. We had, her husband would send, when we had holidays, we had stuff for, Christmas. He sent us a tree. We had New Year's Eve stuff, little hats and things like that. So I mean, those memories are good. Those memories are good. All the girls, we always had food. So if anybody wanted something to eat, they go, let's go to the girls' room. Then we had people who would just come in the girls' room because it smelled good, And they would literally tell you just want to come in because it smells good in here.
It smells feminine.
Yeah.
Was the interaction with the men, pretty good over there?
Yeah.
So Jason often asks this question, and it'll be interesting to ask you, and that is, would you encourage someone else to join the military?
I would. I encourage my son. So, yeah.
Okay.
Steered him to the Air Force, for not because I think the Army is bad, but simply because it's harder to go to school. And he wasn't ready to go to college. And I said, well, you're not ready to go to college, but I said you'll have a better chance if you decide while you're in the Air Force that you want to go to school. It would be better. You'd be able to do it.
Why is that exactly?
I don't know. The Air Force, I feel like, I don't know a lot of Air Force personnel, but I feel like they are more about actually helping people. Actually, okay, I know you have a life outside of the military. As opposed to the Army, it's Army.
You think the Air Force is more focused possibly on preparing people for success further on?
I definitely do.
Now,
I definitely do.
was being a West Virginian,
Mm-hmm.
do you consider yourself to be a West
I
Virginian?
do.
You do?
I do.
Okay, so when you met people from West Virginia, what was that like for you? Was that something special for you when you bumped into folks, or?
Didn't meet many.
No, because we're a small state.
Yeah, didn't meet many, but actually my first company that I was attached to in Fort Bragg, he was actually from West Virginia. He was very familiar. We used to talk every once in a while. Hey, when was the last time you went home? Because we were close. It's 4 to 5 hours, from West Virginia. So it was easy to come home all the time. And when I came back from Iraq, our battalion commander, he was from West Virginia too. But other than that, I didn't meet anybody else.
Well, is there anything that you would like to say in closing to people who might view this video of you?
I don't know. I would never trade my experience in the military for anything, even though I said it was hard, even though I said, I was angry at the military. I'm probably so, I don't know, I'm all about the military now. It's, especially after working here and seeing other people's, hearing other people's stories, and I appreciate what I've done. I wouldn't trade it for anything. Even the sad times, because that's who I am now. I can't, I feel like it's made me a better person. It's made me a stronger person.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.